on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your
Keep following the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting a movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of, it's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak, the power's even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the poor where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, my best align.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days and midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest artists. I see it in the waters, I see it in our daughters. They could be bridges that know no borders. For so long, them folks try to ignore us. So we at the ballot box, it's a vote for us. Peace to Stacey and the people of Georgia, who galvanize so that we can move forward. Steps are ordered with the presence of mind. Everything's more beautiful in time.
Everything is more beautiful with time, indeed. You're listening to our theme song, Get It Right, which was, of course, produced by Common and Raphael Sadiq. We just want to make sure that we're offering a hat tip to the entire band and all the fans of Tony. We know that just this past Friday, it was reported that Dwayne Wiggins of Tony died at the age of 64. That singer and guitarist with one of my favorite groups died after a battle with cancer. And want everyone who's a Tony fan to know that we are thinking of you. We are thinking of Dwayne Wiggins. We're thinking of their family. You are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and chief White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so guess what? You be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. You ain't got to remember all the letters. You just got to remember Dr. Nii-Q. You just type in Dr. Nii-Q, and I pop right on up, just like that. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. Look, I'm here with you weekdays, Monday through Thursday, and afternoon drive time here in Los Angeles. For folks on the East Coast, you can ride along with us too from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. But I also want to make sure that you all are well aware of my newest colleague here at KBLA, James Farr, who is hosting Conversations Live that just premiered here on KBLA just this past Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific. It is the show of record. If you want to stay dialed in to the recovery and rebuild effort of our fellow Americans, our friends and neighbors in Altadena, California, you got to tap into that show. And so salute to my brother, James Farr, for leading that effort. Now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser on working with Trump. Trump wants to clear homeless camps in D.C., and the mayor says his policies hurt the city. President Trump recently warned D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser that federal officials may step in to clear homeless encampments in the city if she does not act, calling areas near the White House and State Department unsightly. Unsightly. On Morning Edition on NPR, Mayor Bowser pushed back, saying the actions of the federal government are working against our ability to invest in our city, highlighting the challenges of managing homelessness amid federal budget cuts and mass layoffs. On the planned removal of the Black Lives Matter street mural just north of the White House, Bowser shared a shift in stance, saying, "We're going to evolve," without clarifying what that means, while acknowledging that the mural, once meant to be permanent, would now be painted over to address changing circumstances. And so the mayor having to manage a number of competing challenges to the District of Columbia. That's the place where I call home on the East Coast, at least. And so we'll be sure to keep you posted as that story develops. In other news, if Trump closes the education department, what's going to happen to our student loans? I'm asking for a friend, not right. USA Today reporting that President Trump is expected to act soon on his promise to dismantle the Federal Department of Education. Of course, we all know that that is the agency that supplies a small percentage of funding to public schools, enforces anti-discrimination laws, and administers the student aid program. It also oversees federal student loans held by nearly 43 million people. 1 in 6 American adults. That's according to the Congressional Research Service. And with Trump's plans to shut down the department, borrowers are wondering, what is it going to mean if they're for their loans? What's it going to mean for their repayment plan? If it does close, well, they're not going away. Trump said that they would most likely be overseen by a different federal agency. And Trump is yet to spell out how he would dismantle the department. We know that newly confirmed Secretary of Education Linda McMahon said on Friday in an appearance on Fox and Friends that she's on board with Trump's plan to close the department. And in another interview, she told News Nation that the federal aid, including student loans and Pell Grants, might be best served in another department. She added that Trump understands he needs to work with Congress. And so we'll see, all this stuff getting dismantled, but they ain't dismantling them student loan repayment plans. Not yet, at least. In other news, will there be a government shutdown? A lot of people are, really wondering what's going to happen here as the House GOP is battling against a tight deadline and a very tiny margin for error. Americans are yet again bracing for a possible government shutdown. Congress has until 11:59 p.m. on Friday to pass legislation to keep the government funded. Otherwise, a majority of federal employees will go without pay or be forced to stop working, and most government services will be paused. House Republicans unveiled a spending bill on Saturday that would temporarily keep the government funded until September 30th. The bill is known as a continuing resolution, but it's unclear. It's unclear at this hour if the bill has enough support to pass the House. Democrats have already spoken out against it. President Trump praised the bill in a Truth Social post on Saturday, urging the House and Senate Republicans to support it. We shall see. When we come forward, we are welcoming back our friend, Greg Mathis Jr. We're going to talk about his new film that's out, his BET Plus original film, that is, the Dwen Curry Story. And we'll also tap into his memories of working on Capitol Hill. A lot of people don't know that part of his story. but we're going to tell a little bit of that story, and we're going to get his hot take on some of the biggest headlines that are trending from our nation's capital. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Greg Mathis Jr. when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
The following is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways. Airfare not included. See FVGradio.com for complete details. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get your complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. Proceeding is not sponsored by this station or its affiliates.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
We have no permanent friends or permanent enemies. Only permanent interests as we effort to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I am delighted to welcome back to the show my friend, our friend, Greg Mathis Jr. He's an actor and an advocate. If you haven't already, you need to check out his BET original film, Fighting to Be Me, the Dwen Curry Story. It premiered in late February on BET+, but it's still available. It's the story of a celebrity stylist and fashion icon, Dwen Curry, who secretly finances this lavish lifestyle by fraudulently acquiring millions of dollars using her criminal organization, the Gay Gangsters, all while grappling with family, love, identity, and other challenges to survive the dangers of criminal life. It is riveting, so I've heard, and it's getting good reviews.
That's great to hear, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's great to be back, my brother.
It's always great to have you here, and let's talk about the film first. Let's talk about the film first. I know that your life before Hollywood was just as compelling, if not more. But talk to us about, how are you enjoying the ride coming off of this film that is being embraced? I mean, you all were just at the Pan African Film Festival, and I know you all are doing this big media blitz, and it is a story of an otherwise sort of unsung hero in a community. And it is being told at a time where a lot of folks are being told to be silent about stories that touch on these subjects and folks with these identities.
Well, exactly. And, this is my first feature-length film that I've done since entering the entertainment industry. And, one of the reasons for me personally entering this industry is because of the importance of storytelling and the impact it has on our culture, our country, and the stories that we're able to tell, the stories that haven't been told, and joining that fight to make sure that we are telling diverse and authentic stories. And it's a privilege because this could not be a better one to tell. It's a real life story about a woman who is still alive, a true crime biopic. And a lot of times you don't get to tell stories about people who are still living. They don't get their flowers while they're still here. And one of the most compelling parts about her story, as you hinted at, is the fact that Dwen Curry, it was a journey to become the woman that she is today. She was assigned male at birth, and you see through the course of this true crime biopic that she really lived a troubled lifestyle early in her life, and that was part of her journey to becoming and finding out who she really was. We see some of the criminal activity that she was engaged in, some of the drug use that she was engaged in. And an added note about this film is that, my father, Judge Greg Mathis, was actually an executive producer of the film, along with Megamind Media, Tressa Smallwood. And one thing that's always been very important to our family, given his story as well, is redemption. Giving folks a second chance, particularly people who haven't been given a fair shake in life, and letting people know that just because you've made a mistake doesn't mean that you can't overcome that mistake. And so it was really a privilege to tell Dwen's story, because you see her as a person who's struggling to find her identity, struggling to find who she really is, hooked on drugs at a certain point in her life, which was a really tough part of that story to tell, and a tough part of that story for her to see when she finally saw it. But when she was able to finally accept who she was, which is a transgender woman, she becomes the beautiful woman that she is today and the best version of herself. And it's able to overcome so many of those obstacles and have a second chance at life to really thrive and be the woman that she is.
Now, I mean, I think it's really incredible that your father, Greg Mathis, Judge Greg Mathis, in his love and support for you and his allyship of the LGBTQ community, actually decided to put a little bit more on it and sign on as an executive producer on this project. Talk to us about that conversation with your dad, about being a part of this project in this way in a time such as this.
Yeah, I think for him, it's something that comes strictly from the heart, both with me being his son and part of the LGBTQ community, but also my Uncle Steve, who he talks about a lot, who has passed away, but is also part of that, our community. And one thing that my father always talks about is just being able to empathize and understand the I'll say the heartbreaking nature of having to hide who you are and deny who you are, and how that can make someone really go through a certain amount of mental anguish that just isn't healthy for them. And we talked about this on the first episode of our reality TV show, Mathis Family Matters, also, when he found out that I was living a closeted lifestyle in DC when I was working in politics, that I was afraid to really tell people who I really was, and how, when you're living that life, it really does kind of force you to have almost like a split personality, and that's not healthy for anybody. And so he's been very passionate about protecting people, fighting for and advocating for people in our community, because I think he understands that, look, God doesn't make mistakes. And, God has made us to be who we are, the beautiful versions of who we are. And it's on us to protect each other, to fight for each other, and to fight for what's right. And that's what this story is about. That's what his work on this film is about. And that's why the name of the film is Fighting to Be Me, because I think we all have a certain level of fight to be ourselves, a certain level of discovery to figure out who we truly are and who God has intended for us to be. And it was beautiful to be able to work with him work alongside him to tell that story.
So one of the things that I discovered, I'm friends with Greg Mathis Jr.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also friends with Derek Johnson.
Yes.
And so two completely separate conversations about this project that they were working on that they were really excited about, right? Without getting into a whole lot of detail. And it wasn't until the project was done where I put 2 and 2 together and I said, they're talking about the same project, right?
Yes.
Not only are they talking about the same project, but Greg Mathis Jr. plays Derek Johnson in the film. For folks who don't know our friend and brother Derek Johnson, talk to us about your character in the film and how and why it's so integral to the story Fighting to Be Me, the Dwen Curry story.
Absolutely. So, Derek and I have become really good friends. I had to shadow him as part of becoming, him in this project, and really got to know him well. And he's a good friend now. So many similarities with his story and my story. Derek's a prominent community member up in Oakland and has been a businessman there for a long time, very active and politics there, Democratic politics, and fighting for some of the same things that we fight for and talk about. And, and Derek is Dwen Curry's best friend. I joke with Derek that the name of the film should have been Fighting to Be Us, because his storyline in the film is one that tracks with Dwen's, and that during this period of his life, during the period of the film, you'll see I play a character in Derek who was not always open about who he was either as a gay Black man, and really had a lot of hesitation about, just with his family being prominent in the community in Oakland, him, having such a big name and people kind of looking at him as the golden child of his family, the pressure to keep up an image that wasn't really him. And so he went through that journey himself of, alongside Dwen. And you'll see in the film, Dwen really helps him to be the most real and best version of himself, which is who he is today. And he's thriving. And so it was an honor to get to know Derek, to be able to really capture that on film. And like I say, it should be Fighting to Be Us, because you'll see in the film, Derek, even though, he was still the great businessman that he is back then, really had to discover himself in this film and figure out who he was so that he could continue to be the best version of himself and show up for those around him.
I mean, I think that's incredible. And I think it's such a great, it's a great summation of the spirit of Derek Johnson, to say the least. But, talk to us a little bit about your closeted days. It's not lost on me. I'm sure it's not lost on a number of our leaders, learners, and listeners, that in this environment, this moment that we find ourselves in, I think there are a number of people, not just on Capitol Hill, but I think there are a lot of people in various industries across the country and around the world that might just be thinking twice about being out, being their authentic self. Talk to us about what advice would you give to not just your former self, but to people out there that are grappling with some of the same choices that maybe your former self had to make?
I can offer some personal perspective, which is that even though it hasn't been the easiest thing in the world, you become the best version of yourself when you're able to live in your authenticity. I know that may sound cliche, but it is the truth. I mean, when I think about my days working on Capitol Hill, and I know a lot of folks will say, well, Democrats are so liberal. Why do you have to hide who you are? I think you and I know that in many ways, when you go into a corporate environment, when you go into any work environment, it can in a lot of ways be a boys' club, and you don't want to be excluded. You don't want to be othered. And so there was a lot of pressure for me, particularly with who my father was and who my family is, to not want to draw that type of attention to them or to myself. And so I was living a life where I would have a certain sect of friends over here, and I would show up in the workplace differently than I would be able to show up at home, or when I was socializing with a certain group of friends. And putting that type of pressure on yourself as a human being when you know that's not who you truly are is just not healthy. And I think, I'll speak to parents when I say this, because that's who's raising a lot of the young LGBTQ kids in this country. The fact is that our community has the highest level of suicide rates. People who have and the depression and anxiety that comes along to being othered and not being able to be who you truly are. And I think that's something that we can't deny, that there is a problem there. I don't think that kids wake up in the morning choosing to live a lifestyle that is inherently going to be more difficult for them. And so I think that, folks that will push back one way or another have to realize that this isn't a fight that people are choosing to take on. Although I know personally, I wouldn't choose to be anybody else, but it's a fight that we've been given by God. And it's a fight that I feel obliged to, be my authentic self, so that hopefully it can inspire other people to live that same life. That's what I take with me today, because I can say that when we look at what's happening in this country, it's scary. Our community is under attack. I look at my trans brothers and sisters, and I look at what they're going through, from the administration taking away their right to be who they truly are, and singling them out and othering them, and attempting to divide our community and pit us against each other. It's the typical playbook of divide and conquer and distract. Quite frankly, you have a billionaire president and his billionaire buddies seeking to pit populations against each other so that they can distract from the fact that they're really robbing all of us blind.
Well, when we come forward, I want you to tap into your memories of Capitol Hill, because I just think it's important for people who understand how the Hill works, how DC works, for them to really sort of articulate how and why this moment really is not normal. We're going to get your take on that. And on a lighter note, we're going to get your take on Duchess Megan's new Netflix show. It's generating a lot of chatter on.
Oh, I was just watching that, actually, her cooking segments.
I had a feeling that you had seen it recently. We want to get your hot take on that and more. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Greg Mathis Jr. behind the buzz of his new BET Plus original film, Fighting to Be Me, the Dwen Curry Story.
If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, you tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The Vatican says Pope Francis is improving as he receives treatment for severe respiratory issues. The 88-year-old, known for supporting racial justice for Black Catholics, remains hospitalized but is no longer in danger. Wall Street is closing deeply in the red as recession fears rattled markets. Stocks plunged as a 3-week sell-off intensified over concerns about Trump administration tariffs and the impact on the economy. Southern University in Louisiana will hold a ceremony Friday for a Black student, Caleb Wilson, who died after a hazing incident. A candlelight vigil follows with his funeral set for Sunday. The suspect is out on bond, and Omega Psi Phi has been shut down by the school. And New York authorities are investigating Wendy Williams' guardianship. TMZ reports Adult Protective Services is reviewing her living conditions at an assisted living facility where she stays in a memory unit. Some close to her deny she has memory issues. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Irwindale, a crash on the 605 northbound at the 210. It's blocking the right lane. The left lane is partially blocked as well. Delays backing up from Ramona Boulevard. Pasadena, 210 eastbound. Delays away from Mountain. You're on the brakes ahead all the way to Azusa. Tough along the 91. This is making your way westbound. That's where I'm seeing delays out of Anaheim from the 5 freeway. Looking a lot better by Knott Avenue and Buena Park. Eastbound side of the 91. Slowing as well from Valley View as you make your way back towards Beach Boulevard.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The UCLA women's basketball team is back at number one in the Associated Press Top 25 poll. UCLA returned to number one after Sunday's win over USC for the Big Ten Conference Tournament Championship. The Bruins, 30-2, were number one for 12 weeks until they lost to USC on February 13th. The Trojans and Bruins are a combined 58-5. The rest of the top five this week: South Carolina, UConn, USC, and Texas. The Chargers signed linebacker Khalil Mack to a one-year deal for $18 million. The 34-year-old Mack was a free agent. Mack had 6 sacks last season and missed only one game. NFL Hall of Fame running back Eddie George is leaving Tennessee State to coach Bowling Green University. George was at Tennessee State for 4 years. He led the HBCU school to the Division I AA playoffs last season and was the Coach of the Year in the Ohio Valley Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader when the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. The Live Your Life organization mentors young women, helping them break negative mindsets and see beyond their surroundings. Through career exposure and hands-on training, they're encouraged to think big, stay focused, and make positive choices. Founded by Nikisha, Mama Boo Smith, who transformed her life to become a community leader. Live Your Life is changing lives, but they need your help. They're raising funds to keep their new building open and expand their program. Your donations will support food, clothes, hygiene products, and holiday giveaways. Visit liveyourlife32.com. That's LIVEYOLIFE32.com to help today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's cal-cruise-news.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me!
National news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, fellas. You're pretty swell. Those petty ones can't fuck with me. Cause I'm a clever girl. We snapping. Pretty place. Tom's place. We want to welcome you to the Beyonce Cowboy Carter Act 2. And a rodeo chillin' circuit. We gonna make it do what it do, yeah, yeah. Put them hands together. We clapping.
You are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. He, right there, for those of you that are streaming, is Greg Mathis Jr. He is an actor and an advocate. If you haven't seen his new BET Plus film, I would say treat yourself.
Please do. It is a treat.
Be sure to check out Fighting to Be Me. It's the Dwen Curry Story. It's available on BET Plus. Of course, Greg Mathis Jr. co-stars in this, along with folks like Dylan Burnside, or Dylan Burnside, excuse me. Dylan was also in the Jeffrey Dahmer film on Netflix.
Yes, yes. And then we have AJ Johnson in there, if you all remember AJ, and DB Woodside, some real heavyweights.
So go out and see it. But before Greg Mathis Jr. Made his way to Hollywood and started appearing in feature films, he was a staffer on Capitol Hill. A lot of people don't know this part of your story, Greg. Give us a little bit of the greatest hits of.
It is the biggest part of my story. That's I started out actually working. When was that? Oof, you're gonna age me a little bit here, but that's okay amongst friends.
You ain't got no salt, so what you talk about? Keep going.
Started out in 2000 and what was that? 2012. I started working for Representative Jesse Jackson Jr. Speaking of building a more perfect union, and just a trailblazer in so many ways. And that was my first job on Capitol Hill, was working for him, driving him around and working in his front office. And then I started doing some constituent outreach on his behalf. Went on to work for my home state congressman, then Congressman Gary Peters, and went over to him when we won an election for him, and went to the Senate side with him. And my last job was with Senator Mark Warner from Virginia. And so spent about a decade actually total in politics. And actually worked on Obama's 2012 or his re-election campaign also. I'm getting my years blurred up, but worked on that re-election campaign also.
So you have a lot of experience on Capitol Hill, really, working for folks who were in leadership on, both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue. As you watch the torrent of headlines that are coming out of Washington day to day, what say you about this moment? How far are we off the rails compared to, what was the norm when you were there?
I don't think the rails exist anymore. That's what I would say. I mean, the fights that we were having back then look so drastically different from the fights that we're having today. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I feel for my colleagues that still have to work in this environment and try and really do good work on behalf of the American people. I think that as much as we hear this president talk, the truth and reality is that the vast majority of people that work in the federal government, that work in DC, whatever side of the aisle you're on, are people who are there because they want to make this country a better place, because they believe in what they're doing. They're not there to get rich. You don't get rich by becoming a public servant. That's just the fact and the nature of most of these jobs. They're there because they believe in what they're doing. And so, when I was in the Senate, I think one of the biggest fights that I remember having was over healthcare, right? And the fight was whether we preserve Obamacare, which was a historic expansion of healthcare that significantly expanded healthcare and increased healthcare numbers and access to healthcare amongst Black people and impoverished people. And the big fight then was whether or not we were going to keep this system and expand this system to make it better, or whether we were going to go the Republican route and downsize that system and turn it into a block grant program through Medicaid, which would have been, it would have done serious harm and it would have really decreased access to healthcare at that time. But I look at the fights that we were having then about, tweaking these programs, making them bigger, making them smaller. At least I could say that was still a common sense policy discussion versus what we're seeing today, where we have a president that wants to eliminate the entire Department of Education while shelling out billions of dollars in contracts to his billionaire buddies, creating a modern day oligarchy here in the United States. And so I just look at what's happening now, and I don't, like I said, I feel for my former colleagues who have to work under this environment, because even the ones who are on the other side of the aisle, I promise you, they don't agree with much of what's going on, but they're probably too afraid to speak up out of fear of retribution.
Is there a line that President Trump could cross where, in your view and your experience, Republicans on Capitol Hill would check him?
It's unfortunate, but I have to say no. I mean, the president has brought foreign leaders into the White House and, gotten into shouting matches. We're seeing things that have never happened before, right? You're inviting foreign leaders, our allies, into the White House and engaging in shouting matches with them and kicking them out of the White House. Canada, who we've never had an issue with Canada, is now changing the name of the Americano to the Canadian Cano because they're so upset with us. And we've inspired this new wave of nationalism in Canada to where they don't even want to, be on the same page as us anymore because of the way that this president's behaving. And Republicans in Congress and, and around the country have been silent about it. They've been silent. I think when I was there during his first term, and even that was different because you had a handful of them here and there that would speak up. The first one that comes to mind is Representative Liz Cheney, but we saw what happened with her. I mean, when she spoke up and spoke out against him because she knew what was right, no one in their party had the guts to back her up. And the president and his allies targeted her, singled her out, and she's no longer there. And so I think there is a environment of fear that he has created around him. He rules by fear, and he rules with the backing of his billionaire buddies like Elon Musk, who I think contributed over $200 billion to it, or just enormous amounts of money to get this man elected. And, the world I live in, you don't invest that amount of money into something unless you think you're going to get a return on the end. People at that level of wealth don't invest that level of money unless they know they're going to get a return. And now these are the people who are running our country. And it's a very scary thing. And so I think that there hasn't been a lot of people who've spoken out, because when they have, they've been faced with retribution. And that's a big fear.
Yeah. In our remaining minutes with you, on a lighter note, because look, it is what it is. This is the early days of the administration. I'm sure there's going to be a lot to unpack, and there's going to be a lot
for us to fight. We got to continue to fight and speak out and speak up, and that's what I say. And that's why I am happy to be in the position now where I'm doing a bit more storytelling, because I do have a bigger microphone. I'm not sitting behind a desk typing policy memos, but I'm actually able to use the platform that God has given me to speak truth to power. And I think that a lot more of us have got to use our voice these next 2 years. And I say 2 because we have an opportunity to shift things in this midterm election and to really put a check on a lot of its power and take our country back. And so I think it really falls on a lot of us and people like you to use our voice when possible and as much as possible.
That's right. Like we like to say on this show, do what you can from where you are with what you have. Speaking of that, Meghan Markle is trying to do what she can with her new show on Netflix. It's called With Love, Meghan. But the reviews have been brutal. The Independent called the show queasy and exhausting. Vulture said it pioneers, quotes, new frontiers in unrelatability. The Times columnist Carol Migley insisted that the show actually exceeds expectations for terribleness. If you thought With Love, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex new lifestyle show, would be a smug, syrupy endurance watch, and that you would rather fry your eyeballs than sit through it, I have news for you. It's so much worse than that. And on Rotten Tomatoes, the show sits at a measly 33% critic score and even worse, 20% audience score. You've watched it. What say you?
I've never been a bully. It's not in me. I don't know why they give that woman such a hard time. I caught a segment of it. I was watching with Elliot, and she was cooking a pasta. The pasta looked pretty good to me. I said, I might try this out. Maybe I'll watch more of it. It didn't leave me with that feeling, quite frankly. I think everyone is entitled to their opinion of what they do and don't like. But what I don't like is just watching how Meghan Markle has been treated by the public for years and years and years. And to me, it's bullying. And I don't think it's deserving. I don't think it's right. She faced it when she entered the royal family, from racism to just flat out bullying, like I said. And so I'm not a bully. I don't know that I can subscribe to the criticism. I think if you don't like it, turn it off and turn away. But the woman is sharing a part of her life that I'm sure at least some people appreciate.
Well, we'll have to leave it there. And I think that's good advice. Go check it out for yourself. And if you don't like it,
turn it off.
Turn it off.
Turn it off.
You can turn it off. Right?
Turn Trump off too.
Our thanks to Greg Mathis Jr. For joining us here. Remember, go out and check out his new feature film. Really excited for him. It's called Fighting to Be Me, the Dwen Curry Story. It's available on BET Plus. And give my best to Elliot and your pop. And I'll see you again soon.
I sure will, brother, and give my best to Montre as well. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580, the quiet part out loud when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Fatherhood includes being present during pregnancy, delivery, and beyond, supporting your partner and advocating for your baby's health. Black fathers play a key role in reducing maternal and infant health inequalities. Join the free AIM Fatherhood Program and make a difference. Visit blackinfantsandfamilies.org/fatherhood.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has work source centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and you, working to build a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and I want to remind you that here at KBLA, we've launched a campaign called Fired But Not Forgotten, the Testimony Project. This campaign is really intended to document the stories of federal workers, particularly Black federal workers, who've been impacted by these mass layoffs. One of the things you heard in our first hour from the CEO of the National Social Workers Association is that when we just look at the Veteran Affairs Department in the federal government, that department has one of the largest numbers of social workers, for example, right? And so when you see these numbers about these mass layoffs, don't just get caught up in the number. Remember, each one of those numbers, they represent a family, they represent a neighborhood, and after that conversation we had in our first hour, they may also represent a social worker. Let me finish with this. The New York Times is reporting that the Justice Department official says that she was fired after opposing restoring Mel Gibson's gun rights. You can't make this stuff up. The Justice Department's pardon attorney was dismissed a day after she refused to recommend that actor Mel Gibson, a prominent supporter of President Trump, should have his gun rights restored. This is according to an attorney and other people familiar with the situation. Elizabeth G. Oyer, the former pardon attorney, described the sequence of events as an alarming departure from longstanding practice, one that put public safety and the department's integrity at risk. Mr. Gibson had lost his gun rights as a result of a 2011 domestic violence misdemeanor conviction. Ms. Oyer's account of a series of Justice Department discussions about guns, about domestic violence, about star power was confirmed by 2 other folks familiar with the events, speaking on conditions of anonymity, of course. She was one of a number of high-ranking Justice Department officials who were fired on Friday. The latest in a series of moves by the Trump administration to remove or demote senior career lawyers who play critical roles in department decisions. She was not told why she was dismissed, but as events unfolded, she feared that they might lead to her firing. A Justice Department official speaking again on conditions of anonymity described these internal deliberations, saying the disagreement over Mr. Gibson played no role in the decision to dismiss the pardon attorney. A representative for Mr. Gibson did not immediately respond to requests for comment. And so what is so dangerous about this? A pardon attorney. It's a pretty run-of-the-mill civil servant job. Pardon attorney was dismissed because she didn't recommend that Mel Gibson get a pardon. Someone who had been convicted of a misdemeanor related to domestic violence. Someone who was a proud Trump supporter. And so if this is happening right now with big names like Mel Gibson, what about those lesser known names? Again, none of this has anything to do with the price of eggs. None of this has to do with fixing the economy. Everything about this has to do with power. And reminding anyone in your path who's powerful and who's not. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village that helps us produce a more perfect union. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer, Andy, our show producers, Faraji and Kim and Art, and each and every one of you, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners. We love you. We appreciate you. We curate the show each and every day with you in mind. Remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Corte, and you've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.